Tyler, one of the things that we both share in common is a passion for these small businesses.
We are really, really active in our local community, and we want to see these businesses grow and develop and succeed. It's getting really popular. What a fractional service is basically when you don't need somebody full-time in this leadership position, because you got to make money to pay taxes.
And as soon as I took that marketing class, I was like, oh, I love everything about this. You are always allowed to say go Oilers, but
that's going to put somebody in jail.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of the Next Gen Strategies podcast. Super excited today to be kicking off this podcast with you. And just to give everybody a little bit of introduction. So my name is Grant Covault. I am the owner of GC Strategies, a marketing firm here in Sydney, Ohio. And joining me is Tyler. Tyler, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah. My name's Tyler Davis. I am a CPA and I own DAT CPA, which is also in Sydney.
Awesome. And for those of you who maybe don't know us, Tyler and I have been really good friends for, I don't even know how many years now. It's been quite a bit
It's
of
over
time.
10.
Over 10. And so, we're going to dive into all kinds of things on these podcasts and have regular episodes all the time. But just to give a little bit of the high level of what we're trying to do. So he and I work very much with different small businesses all over the country, really. And one of the things that, we're often hearing from small businesses is like, well, we hear strategies and these, big jargon, tech words and everything else, that are made for larger businesses. But oftentimes we just struggle with some of the day-to-day fundamental things. And, being small scaling businesses, it can be really, really hard to be a professional at every little aspect of your business. And so, as part of this podcast, we're really trying to give out different pieces of advice, show examples. We're going to be having some guests on and off to where, we can really help a couple of different folks. And one being the entrepreneur. So somebody who maybe has been working for a company for years and now they're looking to start their own business. We're also going to be providing some context for individuals who maybe are business leaders in a business that is a little bit past that kind of start phase. Maybe they're just starting to hire on individual folks and, a couple employees here and there, which obviously have their own challenges. And then we're also going to be talking a little bit to those really, really established businesses, folks that maybe have been around for 30 years and as the world continues to change and markets change, that, they'll be able to use some of our strategies to, whether it might be helping that next generation of whether it be kids or employees take care of the business. We're going to be trying to bring some value to those folks in as well. So with that being said, Tyler, I'd like for you to just kind of talk a little bit for everybody, like, who are you, what you do? Obviously, like we're good friends and there you go.
Yeah, well, I'll start with a little bit of background. So I went to Houston High School, which is just west of Sydney, very small. Did not know I wanted to be an accountant probably until the day I graduated high school. I wanted to be a pharmacist. Took organic chemistry at Edison Community College, which that's where I met Grant, I'm pretty sure. So when we could we could take college classes in high school and get the credit for it. It was great. Took that class, did miserably. And then my backup plan was I just like business, like money, like financials. So I took an accounting class there as well. And I was like, I like this. This makes sense to me. So thankfully, Edison had a good program, transferred a bunch of credits over to Bluffton University, just north of Lima. And I got an accounting degree there. I think I also got a business administration degree, double major because of all those fun credits I had from high school. Left Bluffton and went to Wright State. And I was working at the time and doing my graduate school. And I was getting a master's in accounting. Spent some time working for a manufacturer in kind of a cost accounting role, really diving deep into widgets, right? Like the cost per widget and understanding that flow and working with their CFO. And then when I graduated with my master's degree, I actually ended up working for the state auditor's office where I was a field auditor. And I traveled around and audited just absolutely any kind of entity that was publicly funded that you could think of, which is fun because you get some audits that are like a township, which is we called it a box audit, just literally everything fit in a box, and then scale it all the way up to a city who's doing millions and millions of dollars a year in revenue and expenditures. Did that for some time, ended up being basically a CFO for another local government agency. This is where I've gained a ton of experience in just operations, right? Understanding, HR, workforce, And then the big thing is, and what I want to talk about a lot in this podcast is sustainability and cash flow management, projections, budgeting, that long-term planning, and day-to-day just managing the bank balance, right? Ton of experience there. And then I've created my own CPA firm where I've worked with pretty broad range of individuals, from those people who just became a 1099 contractor or just hung their shingle on their newly minted business, all the way up to those who are really trying to scale a large business. And one of the big things I've noticed through technology now is that there are some really sophisticated businesses out there with one person. Because technology is really letting that grow. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that in the future. So that's kind of my background. And then service-wise with my firm, we're not the typical CPA firm where you just pop in and we do taxes. Our focus really is to be kind of all of the accounting for someone, the books, actually all the different compliance matters that you can think of that can get you in trouble, like workers' comp and sales tax and all that fun stuff.
Right.
All the stuff that's mind numbing to process and handle. We want to do that, but
it's a special person that's helping do that. That you're so special.
Yeah. But where we really want to shine though is delivering value in reading financials and giving metrics and data and KPIs that like make a difference in the business, or listening to a business owner talk about their challenges or where they want to go and translating that back through the financials in a way that makes sense to them and we can measure and see the performance on. That's huge. And then we like to wrap it up with tax strategy, right? Because you got to make money to pay taxes, right? So then we do some tax strategy on top of that and kind of make this holistic, comprehensive approach. So that's really our bread and butter there. So that's me. Why don't you talk about yourself, Grant?
Yeah. Talk about myself. I'm the sales marketing guy. Of course I can talk about myself. No, I'm just kidding. So similar to, like what Tyler is saying, obviously kind of started off going to Edison Community College. We had learned, or we had met each other. And I think we took an accounting class together maybe. And it was something like that. And I realized that was not what I was ever going to do. But I did always have, kind of an affinity for business. And I think that comes from, like Tyler, I grew up in a outside Sydney, a small town. It wasn't even a town. It was a school district. Fairlawn High School is where I went. Not even a stoplight.
When your school is the town.
When your school is the town, you say, what town did you grow up in? Well, I guess I can say Sydney. But it was really, anyway. So grew up on a family farm out there. My parents were, business owners, ran a grain operation. And I really just, always kind of liked business. So that was kind of my intro into just really liking all things about business. And so when I went to Edison and I was interested in take a couple classes there through the post-secondary education courses, had the awesome opportunity to take an entrepreneurship class from a professor. I believe his name was Bill Waxman. Awesome professor, Bill. If you ever listen to this podcast, you're one of the guys to thank for where I started off. But it was probably the entrepreneurship class I took with Bill. There's different segments of the business that he covered, but one of the first ones he covered was marketing. Right. And as soon as I took that marketing class, I was like, oh, I love everything about this. I love the psychology behind it, the part that, it also incorporates in finances and business. Like you have to kind of know a little bit of everything to be a successful, good marketer. And so that was kind of the course that then, led me into going to 4-year school at the University of Findlay, where I was a marketing major. Had a fantastic time at that school, made a lot of really, really good connections. And through that, had some awesome internships. So similar to you, where you had a couple of different experiences. I had the opportunity to work for, Marathon Petroleum Corporation, huge publicly traded oil business. Obviously, I had the opportunity to work for Crown Equipment and New Bremen, and just through a lot of those different experiences. Then I shortly after graduation, then had the opportunity to work for 2 different agencies. One marketing agency being more on the kind of like brand and creative, and they worked more on that side of things. And then I had the opportunity to work for another one, which is much more around like content strategy and web development, different things like that. So I'm kind of combining those 2 experiences is what led me to kicking off my own business, was GC Strategies, to where through having worked with multiple different industries. So as you had talked about as well, from manufacturers to retailers to insurance to anything and everything in between, it feels like really felt called to kind of start up this own practice and be a fractional CMO. And so I'll let you kind of explain what the heck was a fractional what. Yeah. But I'll let you kind of explain what a fractional CFO is that you do. So that's what I'm doing now. I have a pretty kind of unique way that I help businesses. So a lot of times as businesses are growing, they need certain types of expertise at certain areas along the way. And so from a marketing standpoint, oftentimes, they can't afford to bring on a full-time chief marketing officer, or they sometimes don't even know where to start. And so where they would bring me in is typically I'm coming in, I'm helping them put together the blueprint for what they need to do to grow their marketing program, whether that's helping manage agency partnerships, internal folks, whatever it is. I make sure that we kind of got the blueprint in place and then helping them execute it to make it grow. And so sometimes I'm on for just a little bit of consulting. Sometimes I'm on for, a long period of time. It really just depends on the needs. So, but yeah, that's kind of, a little bit about me. And I think that, Tyler, one of the things that we both share in common is a passion for these small businesses, and I'll say small to medium-sized businesses, basically anything that is, a lot of these giant, large corporations to where, businesses, different growth stages. And so that's kind of a little bit of, why we started this podcast is to help those individuals. And, Tyler, I'll maybe let you speak a little bit to more around just kind of your take and your passion on, helping these folks and why we're doing what we're doing.
Right. I do want to take a small pit stop on your backstory because University of Findlay acquired Bluffton. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say go Oilers yet or not.
You are always allowed to say go Oilers, but with Bluffton being the Beavers, I don't know if I don't know if those two mascots necessarily mix.
We'll see what happens.
We'll keep it PG.
Yeah.
We'll keep it PG.
Yeah. So I think you talked about, Fractional. I'll talk about Fractional because I dive into that too with the CFO thing. It's getting really popular. What a fractional service is basically when you don't need somebody full-time in this leadership position. But we both know that every business could use that expertise or that advice. So service providers like us have created this segment in our business where we can provide that C-suite level experience and advice to small business owners at a fraction of the price, right? So they're able to get that, but they don't need, somebody there all the time. And with technology now, we can do that for anybody anywhere, right? So I'm doing the same thing where, and I'm actually seeing it. You see it all over the place. Like, I mentioned local government, but I do that now. I'm fractionalized between a couple different local governments and I'm helping them. And we're seeing that flow through onto the small businesses where we can come in and give that. You have that person with that expertise. And especially if your business is not set up in a place that it's a desirable location like Miami, Florida, or Columbus or LA or, stuff like that, it's hard to find that expertise. And I'm sure people who are listening to this have probably went through the turmoil of turnover and what that looks like. I experienced it when I was working for that manufacturer where the CFO seat kept changing over. And that's a struggle. So this is just a great opportunity for folks to dive into that experience. So and I think just to share, my take on this is we've talked a lot about ourselves, and I don't know if we're going to do that much more outside of this episode because, the big part of this is that we just have this sense of pride in the success of businesses. And it starts really locally for us. Like we are really, really active in our local community and we want to see these businesses grow and develop and succeed. But even more, so it kind of scales out, right, to just the pride in like Ohio. You can read a lot about how successful you can be in Ohio. Ohio is very pro-business. And we're just hoping to give some tidbits and some advice that these business owners can take and use tomorrow in their business. Because you've probably done the same thing. Probably when you started your business, you start Googling. And the content that's out there is like super generic. A, or B, just bad. Times I'm on TikTok and I see somebody toting some elaborate trust LLC scheme where they're not going to pay any taxes. And I'm like, that's going to put somebody in jail. So we want to give some good, solid, sound advice,
Absolutely. And that's funny you say it. And on the marketing side of things, right, you'll hear a lot of times you hear the 20 different softwares that are going to change your life because you can use ChatGPT and AI and all these other things. And I'm like, no, now you're just paying all these subscription costs and you don't really understand what's doing what. So yeah, very much ditto. And, kind of going back and piggybacking on what you were saying about, just being passionate about small business and growing, right? It's a key part of who I think we are too, is, we just want to help people out. We've got the ability to make an impact on individuals, whether it be from a personal standpoint, because we were able to kind of clear up some headspace for what they're doing, or maybe it's being able to connect them with somebody who can help them out better and I think that, as we bring on, we're going to be bringing on subject matter experts, right? So we're going to be bringing on folks who know, a heck of a lot about certain subjects, whether it be HR or legal or financial planning, or just individuals who have started kind of from the bottom and they've made themselves into very successful business owners. And so just hearing from them, understanding their stories, just learning, what were the highs of the business, what were the lows of the business, what would you do differently? I just hope that can kind of serve as an inspiration for folks who are, watching, listening, et cetera. And so, kind of coming up, Tyler, I guess maybe speak a little bit to kind of what the next couple episodes are going to be. And let's kind of talk about that.
Yeah. So we were talking about what this first series of episodes would be, and the topic of scale or scaling came up.
Yep.
So we're going to do a 3-part episode or 3 mini-series, right, of scaling. And we're going to start by defining what the heck scaling means or what scale is. But as we talked about it, we understood that where a business is on its cycle, like we've talked about before, if you're just the solo entrepreneur all the way up until you're managing a large team, what does scale mean? What does scale mean from the context of a CPA? And what does scaling mean for a marketer? So we're going to drop in and we're going to do a session on, the solo entrepreneur, that one man show, one woman show. What does scaling look like for them? Then, what's scaling look like for the business that's starting to hire or has got a few hires, all the way up in the last session to that established business with teams. And I think the big driving point to this is that you should be listening to the stage above you, because there are things you can do right now to put yourself in a really good position for that scaling to work well in the next stage, because you never know when that's going to happen. When you get the big order or people start showing up at your door and you only have so much time, right? How do you do that and do it in a way that's sustainable? That's the big thing.
Yeah. And I think that, it's just unique how it works out because, business goes in cycles and businesses have just different pieces that need to work co-collaboratively together in order to be successful. And so, I think that our hope and the fact that, you've got the expertise on the financial accounting operations side, combined to what I'm able to on the promotional side. A lot of times you get one or the other and people focus on one piece. So we're hoping that, by being able to kind of combine the two and, provide some expertise, but you're going to have a much different perspective than me, that you'll, as a listener, be able to get that holistic kind of advice and strategy and tips, tricks, or maybe you'd be like, those guys are crazy and dumb, but you know what? They made me think about something a little bit differently, or, I didn't even know that was happening. Or maybe they brought on a guest that, gosh, I'm going to reach out to that guy, or girl, and say, hey, you know what? You touched on something in today's podcast that, can I just like have a coffee and talk about it with you?
Right.
So that's our goal. And, like we said at the beginning, like super excited that, after being friends for a long time and, both, now owning our own businesses and growing, I think it's going to be a fun opportunity for us. So everybody who has tuned in today, whether you are, watching online or listening in your car, maybe you're listening at work and you don't want your boss to know that you're listening to the podcast. Thanks for listening. We hope that you, subscribe and stay tuned to what we're doing. And until next time, thanks. Thanks again for joining us today on the Next Gen Strategies podcast.
Be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you really enjoyed it, give us a share on any of your favorite social media channels.
And don't forget to leave us a review.